says, Dr. Shah, but don't you think like once in a while you feel like eating a chocolate or something? I said, if I am very happy the way I am, why would I have desire? He says, yeah, but still once in a while. So I asked her, I said, are you happy with Charlie? He says, yeah. I said, would you ever think of another man? No, I'm so happy. There you go. So if you're happy with him, you're not looking for anybody else. At a smaller scale, or maybe a different scale, that's all I am. So that deep level of satisfaction is always there. Only when we are brainwashed by the material toys, that I had this toy, she had this toy, I don't like this toy anymore, I want this toy, we are at a very, very unevolved state of mind.
She didn't tell you the truth about the child.
I don't want to know it either. If she did, then I wouldn't be using her example, right? So the thing is, the deep level of satisfaction can only happen inside. There are, no matter how many objects of pleasure you will bring it in, you could have millions and multi-million-dollar mansions and you would not be happy. You could be living in a hut and you can be happy. The happiness has to come from within. It's a state of mind. It's a state of existence. Because that's where the buck stops. There is nothing beyond that. So we have to be aware of what we are doing, why are we doing, where are we going with what we're doing. Are we doing this only because the crowd is doing it, or are we doing it just because it pleases us? So we have to define our spiritual path, we have to define our own spiritual progress, not because 500 other people are doing this, it should be correct. So that doesn't justify our action. As long as you're doing an internal transformation is happening, then only that action has a value. Otherwise it has no value. So be aware that are we thinking of others? When we dress up in the morning, are we dressing up for ourselves to express what you feel? Or you're doing it to please others? Whether how I'm gonna look, what are other people gonna think about it? This and that and this and that and all that. Sometimes people lose their whole lives. I have one patient, 73-year-old, has a psoriasis all over. He told me, he said, Doc, there has not been a single day I have been happy. Never. I said, why? Because I can't go in a public, I can't go on a beach, because I have psoriasis all over. Just because of how other people will think, this guy has never felt happy in life. He says, no matter how much people think that I'm happy, look for outside, inside I've always been unhappy. Look at the miserable state of mind. Whatever we do, we have to do it for ourselves. Outside, there's going to be so many directions that you will fight for. And invariably, you will be successful, so-called, compared to everybody else, maybe one field or two fields. You may end up getting a little more money than somebody else. But how does it matter? You know, there was an example of the dog that was let loose, and then he ended up in king's palace. And king had made one room with nothing but mirrors everywhere. As soon as the dog went in, he saw 1,000 dogs. And he started barking. And they started barking at barking at him. And then he started attacking them. They attacked him. And the whole thing went on all night. In the morning, the dog was dead. We are fighting the dualities. We are trying to run several horses at one time. If it's good enough that you are, whatever profession you are in, you do the good job in that, but on top of that, you want to be something else just because your neighbor is doing something else, or he or she is singing better, or what, and this and that and all that. Every single avenue, we're comparing ourselves with everybody else and try to outperform somebody else. And that's the function of the ego. Ego makes us go through all these things, make you tired till you die, literally. Our whole life is dictated by the ego. And it's a shame that we never rise above the ego. Until we realize all these things, the ego will be always alive. So that's why it's very important to dissect every single action and we have to do it very carefully. without condemning ourselves, to make it as a learning experience. And that will happen only when you realize that you are not the mind and you are not the body. You have to distance yourself. Then only you will be able to start analyzing. When you are in the middle of the action, you don't have time to think about it. But little by little, you live your life meditatively and you analyze every single action. Sometimes you follow your desires. You find out you like to eat certain things. And as soon as you see, you eat and you're done with it. Until the next time comes again, another gulab jambu or whatever, you're doing it. But until you distance yourself and you see how, and you are in a state of no desires, you are very happy, and all of a sudden the desire starts springing up like a first wave, like you have a perfectly calm ocean, and then the first wave of desire is coming up. You follow that desire, see where it takes you, right? And now that desire, and you even go through that. They mention in Wikipedia, they actually, even Buddhist monks, let the desire perform an action and observe the whole thing. It's so beautiful. It's like, once we went to St. Martin in Caribbean island. It was so beautiful. And we were on the top floor of a hotel. It's such a beautiful island. And they have mountains. And we saw the rain coming, literally. And he says, only 2 minutes it's gonna, because we are on the top. The cloud which was pouring down was a small isolated cloud, was coming in and then passing this way, and drenched us for 2 minutes and then passed. It was so beautiful. That's how you look at your own desires, literally. That desire has come up. Now I'm gonna perform an action based on desire. And I'm gonna observe the consequences of my action, that once I ate something sweet, now I want to do it again, and that repetitive nature of the desire and the results of that action.
Sugar level goes up.
Right, and the sugar level goes up, of course. So you can observe literally as a cloud that's just passing by you. It's so beautiful, and yet you have nothing to do with it. So some of the Buddhist monks do that, and of course it can be interpreted because you don't know the state of their mind. So he says, oh, he's drinking, or he's doing this, or he's doing that. But he's observing his own action as a learning experience, So to do that, you have to be in the moment. You cannot be affected by your past, and you cannot be affected by your future results. Remember, whatever action is being performed by us at this level, we are expecting the results. Results, otherwise, why would you do it, right? So results are in the future. So we are constantly being affected by the future. We are constantly haunted by the past, because past affects our behavior. If you see a Muslim guy and you have heard so many things and this and that, or somebody had attacked you, whatever, but the guy who is in front of you has nothing to do with all these things, and yet your behavior is going to be affected by your past experiences, and that's going to affect your present moment. So to be in the present, you cannot be affected by the past. Otherwise, it does not remain a pristine experience. A pristine experience is where you are not affected by materiality at all. To have that highest state of pristineness, total purity, and purity is God, purity is consciousness. To experience that, you cannot be affected by the matter in any way. Not affected by the past, so you should not have regrets of the past or any results from the past, and not worried about the future results. And even for the present, you should be able to evaluate in a totally observer level, and that means no attachment to the present. So that's why we always talk about the Vishuddha Chakra. No regrets of the past, no anxieties of the future, and no attachment to the present. And you maintain your observership continuously. Once you get attached, it's going to haunt you, become a past, and going to affect your behavior again. So without attachment to the present also, you go through the life journey as if it's just a dream, like a cloud passing by.
I have never heard about this thing, that are never attached to the present. What do
Yes.
you mean? What do you mean by that?
Means you're not affected by the present. The present should not generate an opinion about. Remember, In
Nobody
meditation,
attach
listen.
present.
Now listen to me. The only time you will attach yourself if you call it a moment a good or a bad, right? If you call it a good, you will like it. If it's bad, you will hate it and you will try to walk away from it. Your actions will be decided by your liking or disliking. So meditation is to raise yourself above the liking and disliking. So likes and dislikes are also should not be involved. Remember, that's why we said you should be dead to the world. You should not pick up any thoughts, not chase any thoughts, and not attach yourself to any thoughts. These are the basic principles of meditation. But we are not talking about only 15-20 minutes of meditation. We're talking about living your life meditatively. So expand the same practice into your daily life. Rise yourself above the goodness and the badness. Everything that we call good could be bad. Everything that you call bad could be good. For example, we may call that Britishers were bad and Gandhi was the savior, right? Now, if you think about it, without Britishers, Gandhi would not have come to the surface. Goodness or so-called goodness of Gandhi, Gandhi got his fame only because of the tyranny of the British rule. If the Britishers had not performed the tyrannical actions on the Indians, that would not have triggered.
Britishers weren't there, somebody else would have attacked.
We don't know that. No, and supposing there was nobody there, Gandhi would not, nobody would have known Gandhi.
The Africans would have taken over.
Whatever. And then we would have been worshipping our sheep. But then also, they would be responsible for them. Every action, there is a counter action. Right? So, I'm not saying what is good. That's what I'm saying. We have to look at the whole thing in a total context. And so, Britishers' tyrannical rule was more important to bring Gandhi to the fame than what his parents could have done for him. They sent him to the school, they sent him to education, become a lawyer. He could have performed nothing and lived a normal life and we would not be talking about him. He came to the surface and the fame and all that only because of the tyranny of the Britishers. It always works out. The same thing, if Ravan was not there in Ramayana, what will happen to Ram and Lakshman? They will sit and smoke themselves to death. Ramayana mein aisa hota hai. Ramayana is going on.
Nobody would know the Lakshman.
Importance of Ram and Lakshman was there only because Ravan took the Sita away. It was a good thing he did, otherwise we wouldn't know Ram. So, what I'm saying, in the big context of things, it doesn't matter. We have to, and that's the very, very difficult thing to give up. Because you discuss all these things and one of my patients says, come on Dr. Shah, but this guy, murdered somebody, this guy, committed, don't you hate this? I said, I'm not saying I'm condoning his actions. At the same time, I'm not saying that he's so bad either. We just have to be an observer. This is the world. This is how it's going to go. It's not that I'm totally callous and I have no sympathy for them. And that's how, again, people get you, right? They try to at least. They say, oh, you don't even have sympathy for 9/11. I had people, they came and crying in my office, right? I said, why? Somebody that you know? Oh, no, we don't know anybody. And says, then why? I said, well, so many people died, I said, all right, well, Galaxy M15 collided with Galaxy's M17, 10 million light years away. Doesn't bother you? No. Why not? I said, there may be so many civilizations, maybe the whole civilization must have perished, and you care about 3,000 people. So in a big context of things, it doesn't matter. They say, okay, well, Hitler killed 6 million Jews, yes, but then it was a world-turning event. After that, relatively still, now we have sympathy for the Jews. Probably, hopefully, nobody will perform an action like. Things change, the perspectives change, the world is changing all the time. Our opinions also should change. And that can change only if you remain detached to the present. If you have if I give you a Haagen-Dazs and you say you loved it, what's going to happen 2 days later? You're going to go and get another one because you liked it. What if I gave you carrots and you hated it? You will never come to my house again. And you might lose my company. Oh, this Shrenik Bhai always feeds carrots, So liking and dislikes are decided by asmita. Asmi means I exist. Asmi means I am. I amness is the final culprit. I amness defines me. What if I loved carrots and I came to your house and you fed me carrot cake? I would have come to your house again. Something like that. I'm just kidding. So my liking and my disliking decides my behavior, right? And that individualizes every person. And that individuality creates the fertile ground for fighting. Same way, if I keep on doing Muslim practices or Hindu practices, over the period of 10, 15 years or 30 years, it defines me to the point that I don't like anything else. I become fanatic and may try to destroy. Somebody else has nothing to do with original principle of another religion that it started. All these things are important. So likes and dislikes dictates your behavior. And that creates what we call abhinivesh. Abhinivesh is your attachment to the life. So this is whole sequence. Your attachment to the life, meaning the life as we know, that you want to take pleasure out of it, or you want to have the run away from the pain, suffering, this and that. That defines your dor. It defines your behavior, running around, away from the bad objects, away towards the good objects, this and that. So good and bad is in our head. And why is it there? Because I am. My I amness defines me. And cause of the I amness is ignorance, avidya. That's why we are all here, to realize in meditative state, we go beyond all these things and realize who we are. Once we know who we are, the fakeness of the ego disappears. It's not easy, believe me, but it will take gradual practice. Once the ego disappears, your likes and dislikes also disappears. Then you start judging people individually, and rather than labeling them just because somebody told me he's a bad guy, somebody says he's a good guy. So you stop taking sides. You become a neutral observer. That neutrality is the sthita prajna state. And that can happen only when you go beyond your likes and dislikes. So your ego starts going down, and your likes and dislikes starts going down. So your abhinivesh. Now, if you know that all these things are the same, what are you running after? And what are you running away from? So the life becomes a play, not necessarily a means to get something or walk away from something. So life basically does not dictate your behavior anymore. People don't dictate your behavior anymore. You are the one who dictates your own behavior. And that's spontaneously coming out. You synchronize at the highest level. So much for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.